So this video is going to focus on the HPV vaccine, how it has been tested, and looking at how it was determined to be safe and effective. And so ChatGPT tells us the HPV vaccine in the US is Gardasil 9. Let's ask if this vaccine has been safety tested. ChatGPT says the Gardasil 9 vaccine efficacy trial did not use an inert saline placebo. Safety testing, it says served as controls. Another vaccine. So they compare one vaccine to the older vaccine. It's like saying, my right hand punched you in the face, and then my left hand punched you in the face. And because the damage was similar, my fists hitting you in the face are safe and effective. It's like, no, if you're going to get hit in the face, you compare it to not getting hit in the face. That's how you did. Something that doesn't do anything has to be the control. And so if we look up the package insert for the Gardasil HPV vaccine, they have breakouts into three groups. One who got the Gardasil vaccine, the other one who got the aluminum. AAH stands for amorphous aluminum hydroxyphosphate sulfite. So basically this is like the adjuvant that they add to the vaccine. Another way to say that or look at it would be the active ingredient, or the ingredient that causes harm, the ingredient that does things to the human body. So they break out. They say, one got the Gardasil HPV vaccine, the other got this aluminum injection, and the other one just got a saline placebo. And so injection site markers, if we look at just the vaccine versus the control, there's a little bit reduced pain, a little bit reduced swelling. But then if we look at the saline, we can see it's significantly less than the actual vaccine. Sometimes half, sometimes a third, sometimes 50%, but it's significantly less. And so it's like, oh, interesting. And then when we get down to more serious adverse reactions like dizziness, nausea, diarrhea, vomiting, cough, congestion, upper respiratory tract infection, that's another name for COVID, they combine the saline placebo, the thing that did nothing, with the aluminum injection. So why would they combine those? Well, if we look at the results, they're almost identical, very similar. So it makes it look like there's no difference between the vaccine and the control group. So why would they do that? I mean, if you're going to be honest, why would they break out saline in one category, but then in the more serious things, they combine it? Obviously, it makes them look better. And then again, we have more headache, diarrhea, all this stuff, vomiting, dizziness. Again, they combine it, makes it look better. Why would they do that why wouldn't they give us the actual numbers? And if you look it up, it says, oh, the FDA allowed them to do it. Who cares? Give us the truth. If your product is any good. And then here we get into what you might say are more serious conditions. Autoimmune, diabetes, hyperthyroidism, irritable bowel, myocarditis. Where have we heard that one before? And we see that it's similar numbers, which makes it look better when they combine the control with the thing that's actually a control, the inner placebo. Why would they do that? I searched and searched and searched and asked the AI, where's the breakout? Where are the numbers that show the actual numbers, the actual differences between the saline and the aluminum injection or the vaccine? And it was hard to find. And eventually I found this Food and Drug FDA review of it. And if we go down to page 45, it actually shows us the more what they call serious adverse events following vaccination. We're talking abdominal pain, acute renal failure, appendectomy, chest pain, allergy. What I found interesting is it says varicella infection with a seizure. So a guy gets, a 22-year-old black male, gets an injection and shortly after develops chickenpox, otherwise known as detox symptoms, as the body trying to get rid of poison, and had a seizure. Another person with asthma, they say he has a history of asthma and peanut allergy. Well, vaccine critics say that it's the vaccines that cause asthma and peanut allergies because they have peanut proteins in some of these vaccines, and when they inject it, the body sees it as a hostile invader and so has an anaphylactic reaction to peanuts. And they say, oh, he's hospitalized and intubated for 12 days after the dose. And it says, in the remainder of the male data set, one other death occurred. 15-year-old white male who had a ventricular arrhythmia 27 days after the second dose of the Gardasil, had an aneurysm and died. And they say, oh, the autopsy was inconclusive. But within a month of getting an experimental injection, he dies. I mean, 15 years old. What else would it be? The death was assessed as not related to the study vaccine. What the fuck caused a 15-year-old to die of an aneurysm? I mean, if your kid, your child, your baby gets an experimental injection and dies within a month, what would you think is the cause of death? Peanuts? Just coincidence? That's the thing with all these. Anytime you read this, it's always suspect. At least the older studies, the older things from like the 30s, teens, early 1900s, they wrote them in plain English. It was easy to understand. They didn't try to hide things, or they just said, hey, yeah, we killed this kid, or hey, this happened, or this ridiculous thing happened, and here's what. They didn't use all this lawyerly kind of legalese language to try to fool people. We asked the AI, was there an inert placebo safety test? And they don't give yes or no. They say, oh, it was called Study 4 or whatever. Randomized double-blind involving girls and women. 600 got Gardasil 9, 306 got a saline injection. So you might think, oh, they actually did a legit experiment, non-vaccinated to vaccinated. So you're like looking, oh, look, they got localized stuff to the injection site. The vaccine caused more stuff, redness, swelling, pain. I think, oh, look, and there were serious events, 3 in the vaccine and 3 in the saline, so it's the same. There were no deaths. And then you're like, the major limitation, what? This was not a saline-controlled trial in previously unvaccinated children. So in other words, every kid in this study had already received 3 doses of the HPV vaccine. So that's their definition of a placebo trial. You give these people the vaccine, and then you wait, and then you inject saline and say, oh, they never had the vaccine, so we've tested it. Everyone in this study already got the damn vaccine. They're all vaccinated. Again, it's just like, these people are so shady. They just never do an apples to apples study or control. They always do apples to oranges and hope you don't read the fine print. It was also relatively small and lasted about 7 months. So for a potentially life-threatening toxic injection that might affect people for the rest of their lives, they looked at the safety markers for a whopping 7 months. So if we get into efficacy, in this particular study, they did the new Gardasil against the old Gardasil. So Gardasil 9 against Gardasil 1. And they claim that it had a whopping reduction in cancer. Here we have the disease endpoint: cervical cancer, vulvar cancer, vaginal cancer. And it says there were 6,000 women in the study and 1 case of cancer, or 6,000 in the Gardasil 1 and 30 cases of cancer. So if we do some math, we ask, okay, what's 1 divided by 6,000? And we get way less than 1%. And then if we do 30, we still get 0.005, still less than 1%. So the numbers we're talking about here aren't even, if you look up statistically significant, it'll come up and say, less than 1% is nothing. It's not even. So in both cases, the numbers of cervical cancer are less than 1%. And they're talking about a fraction of a percent differences between the two groups. It's completely insignificant, meaning it's meaningless. It's completely meaningless. But do they report it that way? No. What they do is they show the difference between 1 case and 30 case, and they say, wow, it went from 30 to 1. Even then, that might not seem huge. But if you do it as a percentage, what's 29 as a percentage of 30? Well, it's 96%. Wow, a 96% reduction. Holy cow. Again, the numbers are meaningless. It's so small it can't even be. But here, this is how they cheat. This is how they lie with statistics. They say, oh, 96% reduction. Bullshit. Not a relative or absolute reduction in the overall thing. No, it's the reduction is actually like 0.000% difference between the two groups. And it's not even between an inert placebo. It's completely meaningless. So even if we ask, there you go. It has to be above 5%. Their own numbers. Rule of thumb. If it's less than 5%, it's meaningless. This is less than 1%. It's not even, it's so infinitesimally small. It's ridiculous. And they're hyping it up. They use this bullshit 96% reduction horse shit because they're liars. Then even here it says, if the study has a massive sample size, a 1 or 2% difference can still be deemed significant. This isn't even in a percentage different. It's still less than 1%. It's a fraction of a percent. When I discover the truth, I want to shout it from the rooftops. That's why I wrote 3 books. Unlearning to Remember, The Flying Virus, and Breakup is the Beginning. Available on Amazon, on my website, on Spotify, you can get the audiobook, and on Audible, you can also get the audiobook. We've been told a bunch of nonsense, a pack of lies. And they're not innocent lies like the Tooth Fairy or Santa Claus or something like this. No, these are drink this poison, it's good for you kind of lies. So these people are nasty and we need to do something different. So let's wake up together, help me, support me in this mission to educate everyone around me. And even though my family arrogantly fights me in learning this, once we learn the truth, it's only good, it only helps, it only improves our lives. I mean, how can not taking poison and learning how to help ourselves and take care of ourselves and take care of our kids, how can that possibly harm? That can only do good. Learning how to take care of this earth and how to build community, come back together, how to steward this place. This is only good stuff. This can only help. So I wrote The Flying Virus for the kids. It's a story about, we're told that a new boogeyman is on the scene and only the potion from the rulers can save us. Where have we heard that story? Unlearning to Remember, that was when I woke up after my first divorce and learned about community and about how this place used to be and our ancestral ways and how much better this place can be if we know how to take care of each other. And then Breakup is the Beginning. It's all about my divorces and my losses and how they truly were the beginning. That's what originally woke me up. It was in that desperation that I was tired and done and ready to ask for help and willing to do whatever to build a better life. And I have, and it's amazing. And so get them on my website at clayisland.com or Amazon or Audible or Spotify. Thanks so much for your support. So the current Gardasil 9 formulation contains 0.5 milliliter, approximately 500 micrograms of aluminum per dose. They're given 2 or 3 doses. So that's 1.5 micrograms of aluminum. And why does this matter? Why is this important? There's not been a large multi-year trial comparing 500 micrograms against saline. There is no single universally applicable clinical trial that injected different doses of aluminum or used only saline inert controls and followed everyone for many years. So they have not established a precise, safe dose for weight, body, anything of aluminum. And these kids are getting, 72 injections? All of them having various amounts of aluminum. Some as babies, as soon as they're born. They weigh The average weight is 6-7 pounds or something like that. And they're getting how much aluminum at birth? Now, I cheated here and already looked this up. So I know that there have been studies done on monkeys and rabbits with aluminum. So let's ask ChatGPT and see what they say. So there is a study where aluminum cream was injected into monkeys. Experimental epilepsy in the monkey following multiple brain injections of aluminum cream. So injecting aluminum into monkeys was effective at producing chronic epilepsy. The estimated amount of aluminum cream retained in each cerebral hemisphere following injection varied from 0.3 to 0.6 milliliter. Now, if we go back to how much are these kids getting, each dose has 0.5 milliliter. So they're getting the same as these monkeys that got epilepsy in one dose, and they're getting 70 times that dose sometimes, maybe 100. That's pretty shocking. And the monkeys got epilepsy with just this much, sometimes less, sometimes a tiny bit more. Yeah, so they had seizures, twitch-like movements of the face and limbs, excitement, agitation, movement or stress, readily aggravated or accentuated and spread to a full-blown generalized convulsive seizure and exhaustion. Yeah, we should definitely be injecting aluminum into our kids' brains. During the following few weeks, spontaneous motor seizures would spread and become more prominent, twitch-like muscle movements. So they're saying, it's like 2 weeks after, sometimes 5 weeks. And that HPV study, they only monitored for 14 days initially. So any adverse events could have happened 2 weeks after that, 3 weeks after that. And so they also found in this other study that this neurofibrillary degeneration of nerve cells after intracerebral injection of aluminum. Wow, that's a mouthful. And why does this matter? Well, this term is often the marker for Alzheimer's. In other words, they think this is what happens first, and then you get Alzheimer's. And so aluminum causes this, and then this leads to Alzheimer's. So they're essentially establishing in this paper the link between aluminum injection and Alzheimer's. And these are 15 rabbits weighing 2 to 3 kgs. So what's that, 7-8 pounds? 4 rabbits died within 2 days of the procedure. So that's like 30% died within a couple days. You ever heard of SIDS, sudden infant death syndrome? And you might say, well, aluminum cream or this type of aluminum or aluminum hydroxide, or it's not the same. So do a study with the same thing. Why don't they do it? Maybe that's why they don't do it, because they'd be caught red-handed. And the fact that these companies, when they do these tests, they don't do an actual inert saline placebo. They test against their other products. That's super shady. That's so suspect. What are they hiding? Why wouldn't they do a legit long-term test? And there are unvaccinated populations out there in the world. Amish are one, other indigenous peoples that don't have these products. There's numbers out there that they can compare the health, the overall health of one group to another. Why haven't they released that information? And this is really interesting. On the day after the injection, after these rabbits got aluminum injected in their brains, to the next 3 weeks, they remained in good condition and exhibited nothing normal after 3 weeks. Again, the HPV study, 2 weeks, they monitored for 14 days. Other studies, sometimes it's only a week, sometimes it's less. After 3 weeks, the first neurological symptoms appeared. These symptoms consisted of epileptic convulsions, ataxia, and marked paresis. I wonder what paresis stands for. Of all 4 extremities. Should we look up paresis? I have a feeling I know what that word means. I think I looked it up yesterday, but let's guess. Muscle weakness or partial paralysis. Where have we heard of paralysis? Is that why in the vaccine insert they have this thing called Guillain-Barré syndrome? Guillain-Barré, my French isn't the best, where they have paralysis, and it used to be called polio, infantile myelitis, AFP, MFP, and isn't like weakness and paralysis and motor control, isn't that similar to ALS, MS, all these other neurological symptoms, Lou Gehrig's. It's so mysterious. I wonder how these people got these mysterious things. Maybe they got injected with fucking aluminum and other toxic chemicals. Could it be? I mean, is it that hard to put two and two together? That injecting aluminum, being around these toxic chemicals, is the cause of these symptoms and all these explosion of neurological conditions? Come on, man, we gotta wake up. This is from the NIH. Alzheimer's disease, neurofibrillary degeneration, is pivotal and multifactorial. So this is where it says that this condition, this thing, is what leads to Alzheimer's. This is the hallmark, and it is apparently required for the clinical expression of the disease. Now they're trying to find a drug to target this condition, but your drugs already caused the condition. Stop drugging people, assholes. It's just disgusting. It's that, there's different names for it. Some call it the Hegelian dialect or some other name, but basically they create the problem. Then there's a reaction, and then they swoop in to save the day with more drugs. So they profit on both ends, and they're causing the problem. They have the solution. It's a fucking scam. Alzheimer's disease, the single major cause of dementia in middle and old age individuals. So even if these studies they do for the vaccines are even 10 years, is 10 years enough? If it's, if it doesn't really set in until you get to be 50 to 60, 70, 80, 90, that's how long they have to do these studies. If all of a sudden Alzheimer's and aluminum poisoning leads to Alzheimer's, well, it's so shady. So, the chat GPT, the AI, when they get back and say, oh, we injected these animals with the adjuvants, with the aluminum, and the same way humans are blah, blah, blah. So in the 3 to 6 months, it said aluminum concentrations were elevated. 3 to 6 months. That's it. Kids are getting these injections for, till they're 18? And then who gets a flu shot every year? And I know tons of people in their 70s that are getting these injections. They've been doing it for decades. And again, no saline only group. This one, it's interesting that they tracked them for 28 days. And then after 28 days, aluminum was detected in the kidney, spleen, liver, heart, lymph node, and brain. And they say, oh, the brain contained the lowest. Aluminum still ending up in the brain. And we know what aluminum in the brain does by that monkey and rabbit studies. So there is aluminum going to the brains after 28 days in rabbits. So why aren't they doing long-term studies to determine what's really going on? Or said another way, they shouldn't be injecting aluminum into anyone, given that there have been studies done that prove that it's toxic. So if we ask, has Merck makes the Gardasil 9 vaccine. If we ask, have they ever been found guilty of abuse or crimes? Yes, pharmaceutical giant Merck has faced major criminal and civil penalties. They pleaded guilty to violating the FDA Cosmetic Act, $300 million. The company paid $600 million in civil claims, $4.85 billion. That was Vioxx. So Vioxx, it was like 40 to 60,000 people had heart attacks or heart conditions and died. And they settled for $4.85 billion. And if you look up John book 6, it goes into that, and it's just, it's disgusting. But basically, they had court documents where they knew that it was going to cause heart issues, and they went ahead anyway because it was profitable. And that's what's so shady about these civil claims is, these people want money. They're injured, so they take the money as long and then Merck is like, okay, fine, we'll pay as long as we don't have to admit fault. Even though they killed people, they're paying billions, but we didn't do anything wrong. It's like, what's up with that? So they can just, claim we didn't, it's just an accident, another coincidence, whoops. Just think about that for a minute. Merck, $4.85 billion. Heart risk linked to Vioxx. They didn't admit fault, but why would they pay billions if they didn't do anything wrong? This is the company that you're trusting with your child's health. And they took Vioxx off the market. Why would they take it off the market if they didn't do anything wrong? If it's a perfectly fine product, why would they, we're not going to sell it anymore? Why? If it's perfectly healthy and safe and all that, why would they get rid of it? It's a very profitable drug. 5 years after this prescription drug was introduced, Studies linked to thousands of cases of heart disease and stroke. I'll say it again, thousands of cases of heart disease and stroke. Merck settled the Department of Justice criminal charges for $950 million. And then the investors sued and they got $830 million. Merck knew about the risks, but failed to warn the public. So they knew in their own studies it caused heart issues, and they fucking put it on the market anyway. Heart attacks, strokes, which were sometimes fatal. Carol Ernst became the first of tens of thousands of consumers who sued Merck over allegations that the company had concealed information about the serious health risks. Robert Ernst, I'm assuming that's her husband, a marathon runner and fitness fanatic, started taking Vioxx in November to treat pain in his hands. Less than 8 months later, the 59-year-old Texas man died of a heart arrhythmia that he experienced in his sleep. Ernst's widow, Carol, couldn't understand what caused her husband's sudden death. Sudden death. Where have we heard that before? Isn't SIDS called infant sudden death? During the COVID thing, it's all these people died suddenly. These products, for being safe and effective, sure have quite a record or a stigma around them of people dying suddenly after taking these products. The more she researched it, the more she suspected the culprit was Vioxx. Again, these are anti-inflammatory. The inflammatory response is your body sending blood and nutrients to the site. It's a repair process. Why would you stop that? Your body's trying to heal. There's other ways to get pain relief without poisoning yourself or giving yourself a heart attack. Cardiovascular risks were suspected for years. Merck executives became aware of these cardiovascular risks as early as May 2000, but they did little to pull back on the drug's development and marketing. Clues about the troubling side effect emerged in a large clinical trial launched in 1999. It was even, and again, no placebo, but between this new so-called painkiller and this old painkiller, it still had side effects. And even with this drug, ulcers and bouts of gastrointestinal bleeding. It's poison. Don't take it. But during the study, 79 out of 4,000 patients taking Vioxx suffered serious heart problems or died. Nearly twice as high as the other drug. So even without a placebo, they got double the death, and they're still putting that shit on the market. These are criminals. Research later published in The Lancet. This is a legit medical journal. 88,000 Americans had heart attacks from Vioxx, and 38,000 of them died. Think about that. You're letting your kids get injected with these criminals' product. Are you crazy? Despite the red flags, marketers and Merck decided against a study aimed specifically at Vioxx's effects on the heart. So they didn't do a study to assess the heart damage because they feared it might send the wrong message and interfere with their competitive edge. Oh my God, these people are sick. Wow. According to this AI, Merck generated an estimated 11 to 13 billion in revenue from Vioxx. I mean, who knows what the actual profits is or expenses are. They probably do Hollywood accounting. 10% of annual revenue during its peak years. So it's a huge part of their success. That's why they had a huge incentive to keep it on the market. I mean, just think about that for a minute. They paid out less than 5 billion and they had sales of 11 to 13 billion. Who knows what the actual profits are, but this is where it's such a broken system. They should be fined like double the sales. That would be a strong incentive to stop killing people. 6.8 million in sales per day. Merck did not publicly report a clear Vioxx-only net profit figure. I wonder why. So I don't want my kid injected or given any product from Merck. These are criminals. Do you think they've changed? They didn't get hit with a big enough fine to make them want to change or stop doing it. They knew it was going to cause heart attacks and kill people, and they put it on the market anyway. Why would you trust them to make vaccines? And they're not the only one. All these companies have similar track records. So you tell me, let me know in the comments, is this what you consider safety? Why is the government mandating this product into kids? And again, go back to the foundational evidence of virology. Viruses have never been proven to exist. They've never isolated them. There's no such thing as a successful contagion study where a sick person, some sample was taken and that was exposed to healthy people and the healthy people got sick. They have never put sick people in a room with well people and the well people got sick under experimental conditions. It's all a fucking racket. So let's stop getting duped. And what really troubles me is the arrogance of people who believe in these products that haven't even looked into it. They haven't taken the time to look into the criminal record of these companies and the fraudulent science, pseudoscience that's behind it. Let's just stop. They're not trustworthy. The incentives are perverse. They're going to keep doing it because they can. I personally hope that I would never be in that position where if I could make billions and kill children, I would do it. But some people, when they have that incentive put in front of them, they just, power corrupts. They can't help it. Even putting all these executives in jail, would that really change it? The system, it's still corruptible. Politicians can be bought. The whole thing is fucking crooked. We need to stop outsourcing our power, period. Stop trusting any of these people. We need to start looking to our neighbors, people we actually know and have a track record with. Hey, do you poison kids? Have you poisoned people and made them have heart attacks and strokes? Yes? Okay, well, I don't think we want you in our neighborhood. Maybe you need to, go repent or make those people whole somehow so you can come back into our community. Oh, hey, do you take care of kids? You haven't murdered any? Okay, come on in. Yeah, we'd like to have you in our community. It's that simple. So let me know what you think. Thanks. Hope this helped. I put everything I've learned into my courses. They're on my website. How to feel better, how to communicate better, how to relate better. If I feel better, I can do the other two. And often when people say something that upsets me or triggers me or something happens or just life in general, first thing I do is turn to feel better, whether it's breath work or meditation or mindfulness, watching my thoughts, or doing something physical like exercise or the cold or hot or whatever it is, but a whole list of amazing tools that I had no idea. And I used to suffer a lot when I didn't have them. And then once I can calm myself, well, then I can communicate better. I can catch myself before I say something hurtful, or I can learn how to ask for what I need, or I can learn how to communicate with people around me so I'm more likely to get my needs met. And this helps immensely in all my relationships. I can be the one, I am the one who's the healthy one, who's the one that knows how to relate and relates in a healthy way. I'm not the one who's the rageaholic or the maniac who's destroying the relationship and constantly doing the toxic, dysfunctional behavior. And so if we have these skills, we can all be that one. And then this whole toxic living, toxic relating, toxic communicating can fall by the wayside because we don't have to do it anymore because we've learned a better way. And this system that we're in here, they don't want us to know a better way. They don't want us coming back together. They don't want us feeling better because then we're not going to buy their stuff. They need us poor and sick and fat and unhealthy in order to do all that. Whereas if we feel better and we're able to communicate better and relate better, we don't need them. We can build a better world where we steward and take care of this place and each other, and everyone benefits, even the supposed powers that be. They will benefit by joining our communities, but we have to first say no to them and learn how to empower ourselves, reclaim our power. So I put that all into my courses. Come on my websites, Clay Schmitz and clayisland.com. Both of them, it's all there. Sign up today or come to a one-on-one person and let's get going. Let's help each other feel better, communicate better, and relate better. Thank you so much.